Pretty lucky in love, though, if I may say so.
I have what you need. Not what I need.
Yeah. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween.
Yes, we are kicking off our series of Halloween treats on Rare Delicacies today. I showed you the stuff, which clearly made enough of an impact on you to obtain that insanely awesome shirt.
T-Villain.
T-Villain. You just got it pimped out. There you go. I myself, have already jumped hard into the Halloween season. Me and Lynn, all throughout September, we were going crazy on horror nights this year. And this year, Killer Clowns from Outer Space was a very prominent one. Only Lovers Left Alive. It's actually one of the more recent titles we featured on this show. This one is directed by Jim Jarmusch.
All right.
Have you seen any of his other work?
Maybe.
Dead Man with Johnny Depp. He did Broken Flowers with Bill Murray. Coffee and Cigarettes. Recently, he just had The Dead Don't Die. That's his most recent film. This one came out about 2 years as we're recording this, about maybe 2 years prior, and stars Tilda Swinton, Tom Hiddleston, Mia Wasikowska, Anton Yelchin, God rest you, we miss you, sir, and John Hurt, also, God rest you, we miss you, sir. What do you know about this film?
Only from watching the trailer. And personally, it had me at Tilda.
Tilda Swinton's kind of a miracle. I want to say she's kind of a miracle actress just because she's someone who has been able to be so many different types of characters over the years. You can't put her in a particular column of what kind of character. She seems like she can just do whatever she wants practically.
Yeah. Is the movie Orlando? Was the movie called Orlando? She plays like a person who lives for several hundred years, and sometimes she's a man, sometimes she's a woman.
I think so. Yeah.
I want to say it was called Orlando.
All I can tell you now about Only Lovers Left Alive, her and Tom Hiddleston play vampires who are exceptionally old vampires. Like, they've been around for a very long time. And there are many times where they have to be apart because, unfortunately, one of the main problems of living forever,
You get sick of each other.
these two vampires who periodically have to be apart so that way when they're together they can still be just mad, crazy in love with each other. Again, I don't want to say too much, but
what little I know is apparently they're musicians.
Yeah, Tom Hiddleston is. He's kind of like a strictly recording musician. He's not like a touring musician. But their existence kind of gets a little thrown out of whack when Tilda Swinton's sister, played by Mia Wasikowska, it kind of ends up getting thrown into upheaval and in ways that kind of throws off their own groove.
I said, given the cast, I'm already very intrigued by this.
Yeah, this one, me and Lynn saw. Lynn, of course, wanted to see it because, like you said, the cast is spectacular. I love Jim Jarmusch. I remember seeing Coffee and Cigarettes, and I thought this was a one-of-a-kind filmmaker, and just love seeing the things he does. But when I heard he was going to tackle vampires, I was immediately intrigued because I knew he was not going to do what most other filmmakers have done with vampires recently. And I'll probably quiz you on the thing that's really interesting about this particular vampire film compared to every other one you've seen.
Okay.
And so we'll tackle that when we get back. So in the meantime, for all of you who have not seen it and want to watch it with us, stop the video, go watch it, and then join us again for Only Lovers Left Alive. I asked you to kind of observe something about this movie that is definitely not the specific thing that's not what any other vampire movies do. What do you think it is?
Well, they did a great job of showing the ennui that vampires feel after being around for hundreds and hundreds of years. I also like the fact that they were both extremely well read and very well educated.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I think I might have missed what these specifically you were talking about.
Well, in every other vampire movie you ever see, like even the silly fare like Blade, or even stuff like Interview with the Vampire, most of the time you always see vampires always in the pursuit of just they have to feed, or they have to rule the world and stuff like that. And
this is just their lives.
That's exactly it. That's the thing that's entirely singular and brilliant about this movie, is that it's just about living. And in many ways, the thing that I found so intoxicating about this movie is that somehow they were able to use the life of vampires to actually talk about, as you get older, how almost like a burden experience can even become, to the point where you get depressed. I mean, and you see both Adam and Eve on both sides. Eve, actually, you can see with all of her knowledge, and you see how she reads and how passionate she is about everything around her. Whereas Adam, as time goes on, you just see, like, all he can see is just the stupidity and the horrible things that we do to each other, and how that just gets frustrating when you've been living for as long as you haven't seen the things he has.
Well, I want to thank you. Seriously, this is a great film. See it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
First and foremost, we're already going to say menu worthy on this.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's just, I think if there's any word I think is the best word to describe it, it's intoxicating. For a movie which I can tell is low budget, at the same time though, you can imagine a lot of that budget was probably just spent on set design, specifically. Specifically to hit home how old they are.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're going to buy something, it still works. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's 50 years old now, nobody uses that anymore. Crap.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's even just a little fact about Adam disguised himself as a doctor in order to go to a nearest hospital to get some quality blood. But the hematologist goes, "You do realize that stethoscope, is obsolete. It's been obsolete since the 60s."
No, I'm about to turn 50 this year.
Comment below if you think that's bullshit, because I think it's bullshit.
Bless you. But one thing I've noticed is that I have stuff that I've had for 20 years. Well, why? Well, it's still good. I mean, yes, there's better stuff. I don't want to get a new. I don't want to get a new phone every 2 years. I don't want to get a new computer every year, because I don't want to get a new operating system, because the one I got works. Damn it! Yeah. I'll admit the new one's better. Well, okay, but
it works. I mean, and again, you see that kind of divide between Adam and Eve. Eve uses an iPhone and is able to communicate instantaneously, but you see Adam,
an old iPhone though. Yeah, but
either way, but Adam
still has a cordless phone from the 80s,
which he's patched into his camera and to his TV, so he can do exactly the same thing. And that's the other thing that's actually kind of sad and depressing, is the idea of the loss of knowledge. I mean, we keep claiming that we're evolving, that we're building, but unfortunately, even with every knowledge that we gain just with technological advancement, unfortunately, in the long run, we still lose a lot of knowledge. Yeah. At the same time, he actually retained a lot of knowledge that was unfortunately lost from Tesla. In his own house, he actually powers his house by self-sustaining energy. Yeah, which was knowledge that was created by Tesla. John Hurt plays Christopher Marlowe. And for any of you Shakespeare enthusiasts or conspiracy theorists know, Christopher Marlowe was said to be a friend of Shakespeare, and many people believed actually wrote all of Shakespeare's plays, and many even believe even further that Christopher Marlowe was even killed to conceal the secret.
Oh, I didn't know that part. Yeah, I love that little subplot though.
Yeah, the part where they're in Christopher Marlowe's apartment, and he just looks at a picture of Shakespeare going, illiterate friggin' zombie.
Yeah. I like the fact that they refer to humanity as zombies.
As zombies. Well, by their perspective, we are just dead men walking.
Yeah, I would have said mayflies, but yeah.
Start writing a vampire story, and that's have them call them that.
I play role-playing games on occasion, and I was a big fan of Vampire the Masquerade back in the day. I asked him if he played, he hadn't.
I know.
You'd be surprised. A fair amount of this could have come directly from this.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I mean, because the game, one of the tenets of the game is, okay, what do you do when you live for 500 years? Mm-hmm. You pick a skill, okay, 20 years later, you pretty much mastered that skill. Okay, now what?
I love Eve is the fact that she is very clearly just someone who loves, just experiencing things. Whereas Adam just seems to let things just get to him to the point where he just kind of buries himself in a little hole and just kind of...
He's the quintessential suffering artist. I have to suffer for my art.
Yeah, well, and unfortunately it's because all he ever sees around him is the suffering.
Yeah.
And well, because they talk to each other about, how all the intellectuals they've met over time, and like actually they make an allusion, I think it was to Newton, and you you go like, oh, he was a nut job, and and I was like going, yes, but that's what we think because that's what because that's what history is making us think. In a way, it kind of goes back to a movie that we spotlighted previously, The Man from Earth. And if you actually met someone who who actually knew this person in that time and actually knew the truth of this person, could you truly believe?
Yeah.
By a vampire's perspective, they could remember these experiences they've had, and they would know the deep down truth about the person. And unfortunately, they do make a point in this movie about what we tend to do to all the great thinkers of our time. I mean, now it's even to the point where even people who lived only 50 years ago were starting to try to debunk things to do. With freaking moon landing deniers.
And we want to destroy our heroes.
We will all be dead and gone. We will be ash. That is why it's so important, the things we leave behind. Some vampire movies actually talk about this particular thing that vampires do, but in this movie, all the vampires wear gloves.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to talk about that.
Well, vampire senses are insanely acute, in particular touch. Well, there's some amazing bits where Tilda Swinton, where she actually touches things, is able to gauge perfectly when they're made. Okay. She's able to do that strictly through touch. Imagine the sensory overload if they left their gloves off. There's even a part where Adam is playing a violin, but beforehand he actually smells it. Mm-hmm. And there's a part of me suspected, because it had a particular tinge to it, and it alludes to a movie that I'd love to spotlight one day. I think that might have been The Red Violin.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, that... I was like, could that be the famous Stradivarius, The Red Violin?
Oh.
Have you ever seen the movie The Red Violin?
Yeah.
Okay, then it won't be with you then. Yeah. Well, then, for anyone who ever gets a chance to see the movie, there's a reveal about the Red Violin as far as what was in the varnish.
Oh, yeah.
If that legend is true, then that would explain why Adam's able to smell it and probably have an affection for it.
And I love that their names were Adam and Eve.
When you see them together again, they are just mad, crazy, like...
Right, because you have to stay 10, 15 years away from each other just so that...
They probably have even been apart longer than that, even. So let's face it, Eve does tend to indulge her sister, her little Hellcat sister, Ava.
You drank. Ian.
Sorry.
She's a fascinating case in her own right. She just represents full-blown reckless living.
She didn't call her sister. I would have said, okay, was this someone she just turned and fairly recent?
Yeah, but
recently.
But they said that she was related by blood, as in like they may have been sisters, but like around the time she was turned.
Or now that I think about
it, they do have the same hairstyle, so.
Or maybe now that I think about it, she turned Ava, so now she feels like she's taking responsibility.
Yeah, that would account for a lot. I'm a big fan of movies that let you come to some conclusions, because in the long run, it's not important.
No,
but it is fun to let the audience kind of come up to their own conclusion as to what the relationship is. I mean, it's very clear Eve has some kind of attachment to Ava, hence why she kind of indulges her a bunch of times.
Yeah.
She might even be a person who may have succumbed probably even worse than Adam to an extent, where she just buries a lot of the woes of eternity to just full-blown indulgence. Like almost like kind of like what a person, like an alcoholic.
Yeah.
What an alcoholic would do just to dull the pain.
All she cared about was blood. Yeah.
Yeah, to the point where she was like drained. She was like voracious, where she just kept like draining all their blood, and didn't even care to even question whether or not the blood she was drinking was even good blood. Which that's another thing this movie also does. Which
I like that. Yeah.
Now I feel sick. What do you expect? He's from the fucking music industry. Just back off.
Actually, Interview with the Vampire and What We Do in the Shadows, the TV series, alluded to the fact that vampires can taste or experience the sensations if the blood is contaminated. But this one actually says that contaminated blood is pretty much poison.
Yeah, you could die from it. If it's got the wrong disease or the wrong...
Or even then, just the fact that they taint their blood with whatever, like with chemicals. Like, if they're drug addicts, or that the blood is pretty much tainted to the point where it's not even drinkable. In the annals of vampire movies, this one does something just, if anything, just wants to focus more just on the lifestyle and how it actually could even attach to how we as people, as we get older, how harder it is to live just because of what we know and what we learn.
Yeah.
Even just with the stupid shit that's been happening in the mere 2 years alone, it's just, a lot of times it just weighs down on you, and you keep questioning. And there's a point where Adam even thinks about killing himself. He actually has a wooden bullet fashioned for himself, just because there's times where even he can't take it. And it's like, what the hell is it that carries you on? that pushes you forward. And the movie basically teaches you never walk through life alone, because if you're alone too long, if you even shut yourself off like he does, you can be tempted to do stuff like that. So it's important to just find attachments, find people who love and care about you, and just move on from there, and just keep pushing forward. I mean, even when things seem really, really freaking dark, always find something new to attach to.
Driving around Detroit. The cinematography was just beautiful.
Yeah.
Loved the whole urban decay that they had going, and the comments of, well, it'll come back again, because you know, give it a couple hundred years. I mean,
juxtaposition between the two characters is that for everything that gets destroyed, there is rebirth. That is one of the essential traits of life. For every bits of destruction, there's always new life afterwards. And it's obvious Eve is the one who sees that a lot more often. It's like for every death, there's always a rebirth and something new and something spectacular to see.
Yeah.
And Adam
just wanted to focus on the death.
Yeah. Well, and even then, you could even see that in the way they lived in their respective homes.
It's reasonably neat, bright.
It's very comfortable, whereas he lives in... You probably imagine he bought it from Tyler Durden. His is much more visually interesting, but it's much more squalid and much more... you can't imagine a regular human living there and not getting some kind of horrible disease from it.
Well, it's not quite hoarder level, because I mean, you can tell there's a method to his madness.
Yes.
I mean, everything worked. Everything, everything was in it more or less in its place. It's just that he had too much of his. He really needed 5 guitars.
Well, because the only thing that he obviously had any kind of value in was
the creation of music.
The creation. The only thing that one can value if you've lived for as long as he has is what you can create.
Yeah.
And like he even said, he's hitting to the point now where all he's basically been composing is funeral dirges. I love at the tail end of the movie, right when they're at their lowest, he starts getting a taste of life again when he sees the singer in the bar, and all of a sudden he's alive again. Eve buys him a musical instrument at the very end that has a history to it, and he holds it, and it's a different instrument to what he's used to, what he's been hoarding. All that combined, he comes to the realization that that's what's important to keep life interesting, is just go out.
Yeah, go out of your comfort zone.
Go out of your comfort zone, and it's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult, but the fact that you're out there experiencing life is what's going to make it rewarding. They may fall into the same cycle all over again, but at the same time, though, that is what's going to keep their life interesting. It's important to stay strong in the face of depression, but unfortunately, you can only stay strong for so long. You always fall back into habits.
Right.
What's important is that you have the willpower to push forward. So it leads you to wonder if that's what Jim Jarmusch really wanted to say with this movie. I mean, you probably could imagine he had a point in his life where he was going... looking around the world, seeing nothing but horrible things, but then it's like, how do you press forward from there? I'm wondering if that was his intention with this movie.
Could very well be.
Yeah. For our first Halloween movie for Rare Delicacies is kind of a cerebral start.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I may have depressed our audience for our first week of Halloween of Rare Delicacies. I hope what you have in store for me is a bit more... Oh, God. Oh, God.
It's not happy. No, it's not happy. I'll put it that way.
Okay, well, we'll have to see.
Not happy.
We'll have to see. But nevertheless, Only Lovers Left Alive you can find on pretty much any streaming service. It's pretty widely available. Like I said, it's a recent film, so your odds of finding it are definitely a lot easier than a lot of other ones we have. I saw it, fell in love with it. In fact, Lynn does some wonderful cosplay from it.
Yeah, we got to see that.
Don't tell her I showed you, but... She looks awesome, doesn't she? We've already said it. It's on the menu.
Yeah, absolutely. Go see it.
Yeah, see it, definitely. So...